Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner that has a product, service, or message that you truly believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look at real-world networking and marketing tactics while leveraging LinkedIn to get what you have in front of many more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's interview episode. I have Nathan Turner for you guys today. He is known as the Canadian note guy. Obviously his company, Earnest Investing LP. This is going to be a really impactful episode because not only the diverse background that Nathan has, but understanding not just investing, having your money work for you, but what you can really do to plan ahead. My wife and I, we were down the shore a few weeks back and we were doing a walk on the boardwalk. And I just said to her, it's one of those things where, when the pandemic hit a number of years ago, a lot of people didn't have the necessary monetary resources in place to prepare for that. Meaning when push came to shove, they didn't even have a month's worth saved to kind of pick up the pieces. And it kind of just really just put a magnifying glass on how people need to start preparing better for the future. So we're going to talk about all that and more. So Nathan, welcome to today's episode.
Absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So before we dive into everything that you're doing with your company and Earnest Investing, and I always like to talk about the backstory first, how one kind of goes down the path that they're on. So if you could look back and think about maybe a moment in time for you or something that may have really inspired you to kind of go down this path that you're now currently on. What did that moment look like for you?
Oh boy. So I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole career. I've never had, a quote unquote real job. It's always been doing my own thing. So I think what led me into what I'm doing right now, it's actually, there was a moment, and it was 2015 in February, I can tell you exactly, where my wife and I were driving from Montreal to Toronto to go and visit some family. On the way there, we stopped in to visit a friend about halfway, and I was in a place where I was just frustrated with everything that was going on and how things were not going the way that I wanted and the way that I expected. And so we went out to dinner, and I just kind of vented a little bit, and I'm like, this isn't working, and it's just not going the way I want it to, and everything else. And he turned to me and he said, "Okay, so what do you want to do?" And I hadn't thought about that question for so long. I had no answer. I literally was dumbstruck, and I had nothing to say. So that was an interesting experience. We ended up sleeping over at my friend's house there. And in the morning, we got back in the car, and my wife pulls out a pad of paper and a pen and says, "Okay, so what do you want to do?" And we had another 4 hours in the car. And I'll tell you, it just kind of came to me of like everything that I wanted to do doing it and how I wanted to do it, everything. The whole plan just kind of came out of my mouth, the whole everything. And we spent the last maybe 10 minutes in my in-laws' driveway to finish the conversation, and she was finishing taking notes. And that's exactly what we're doing now, is everything that we talked about in those 4 hours back in 2015. So that's that's the short version of it. But yeah.
So looking ahead now, and I think going back to, those moments in 2020 where people were really impacted, and now 4.5, almost 5 years later, people are still impacted by that. What did you kind of notice in that time frame with not just people understanding about saving, about planning, about, investing in their future, that maybe people are more aware of now compared to, when those moments kind of hit people when they, obviously didn't expect it?
I think one thing is I think it helped us all appreciate a little bit more that element of human connection. where we were literally cut off from each other, where we had Zoom was the best we could do. But I think all of us realized that that was a poor substitute for actual in-person contact and communication. So I think that's been a big change, is, we went to all of a sudden being cut off, and it's been kind of a slow ride getting back on that horse and getting back in front of people and face-to-face meetings and things. But I think that has been a major impact from COVID. And I think we're going to see the effects of COVID in many different ways over the next probably decade at least. So that's going to be interesting to see.
So, something that I wanted to kind of touch on now, are note funds, because there's a
Mhm.
lot of people that listen to this podcast that are private investors. They, invest in startups and
Yeah.
maybe angel investing. I've dabbled in that a little bit, but you focus more on the mortgage side of things and that aspect of investing. Can you talk to the audience a little bit about that sector of investing and
Yeah.
how one can kind of break into that, and obviously what kind of path could that forge ahead for them?
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to kind of explain it a little bit first because most people probably haven't heard of note investing. So we'll crash course on that first of all. So what it means is what I do is instead of buying houses, like kind of your typical real estate, you go and buy a house, you rent it out, you flip it, whatever. And I've done both of those things. But this is a little bit different where instead of buying the property, I buy the mortgage that's attached to the property. So my ownership in that property is actually zero. I don't own the house at all. I just own the mortgage where the house is the collateral for that mortgage. So it's real estate related, but it's really a finance type of investment. So that's what I do. I got started in 2009, and it's been a fantastic ride. I've really enjoyed it. For people that are getting started, I think the first thing is just to kind of realize that it's not real estate. Yes, we're concerned about the real estate. Yes, there's a possibility you could end up owning the real estate, but in its essence, this isn't real estate, it's finance. So I'm buying an income stream. I'm buying the right to receive payments where the property happens to be the collateral, which actually makes it a really great investment, it increases the safety of the investment when you've got such a strong collateral background to it. So I really like that about it. And then on top of that, and total plug, but if you're looking for something that's on that spectrum of safe and secure, uh, not only are you buying a mortgage note, but then you can invest into a fund that has a pool of mortgage notes. So if one goes bad, no big deal. There's 99 others that are going to continue making payments. If 10 go bad, that's fine. There's 90 others that are going to continue making payments, and that just increases that margin of safety.
So who's right for this type of investing? I don't want to say from a business standpoint, but I would say from a liquidity standpoint, because, again, there are people that are in different financial positions where it
Yeah.
makes sense. My wife and I completely believe in asset diversification.
Mhm.
Um, we like to have our money working for us. We believe,
Mhm.
obviously, in having active income, but we also highly believe in passive income, whether it's um, a whole life insurance policy that has, a death benefit, but also retirement benefit at 55, whether it's an individual 401k, IRA, whether it's a Roth or traditional.
Mhm.
And we also believe in real estate investing, where we're hopefully in the coming months, investing in a shore property as a slash shore house slash investment property to Airbnb or rent out.
Okay.
So when is the appropriate time for someone to get into this type of investing?
It should be looked at as another tool in your tool belt. If you understand how notes work and just how the finance part of it and how you can buy and sell finance, you can buy and sell those kind of contracts. If nothing else, that's a fantastic tool to have in your tool belt that you can start using right from the beginning of your investment journey. I think for a fund type of a model, it's really ideally geared towards IRA investment. So if you've got a self-directed IRA, if you've got an IRA that you haven't self-directed yet, this is a great place to put that money where it can just grow in the background. You don't have to think about it, and you can start to build that nest egg that you're putting away for. And I've got both actually. I have investors where they use IRA funds, and I've got other investors who do it as a cash flow type of a play, where we do quarterly distributions. So you're going to get something every 3 months, every quarter, where you're going to get another payment coming in, and nothing to do for it. It's where you just plant your money and watch it grow.
So someone's listening to this and they're like, you know what, Nathan, I love everything you're saying. I want to go through the process of making this type of investment. What does that journey look like for someone that says, yep, I want to do this. I want to move forward. I want to, put my money in these types of places. What's that look like?
First of all, let's have a conversation. I want to make sure that we get to know each other. I want to make sure that you understand what you're getting into, and just a little bit about how the business works. You don't have to know everything about it. You don't have to be able to go out and do this yourself, but you should understand at least the basics of kind of the mechanics of it and how that works, and why it works, and all those kinds of background type information. But then let's have a conversation and see what your goals are, and see if that's something, if you're looking for cash flow, or if you're looking just to, turn your payments back in and compound it and watch your money grow even faster. So that's what I would say. First of all, let's have that conversation. Let's see what the goals are and see how we can work together and meet those.
The the real estate world is a very interesting place right now, with interest rates kind of being all over the place. My wife and I had
Yeah.
the fortunate luck when we bought our dream home. Uh, it's when interest rates will probably never get there ever again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
2.9% for a 30-year mortgage. And our financial advisor, because my wife and I don't like debt either. We like paying things off early, whether it's a car or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And he said, do not ever send any extra payments off to your mortgage. He goes, you are, fortunately, you're robbing the mortgage company blind right now,
Yeah.
because again, things will never get that low.
Yeah.
And again, there's a lot of people that are kind of in flux. Should they make investments in real estate? Should they kind of, diversify, to your point, add this tool to their tool belt at this time? Is there a best and worst time to make one of these types of investments?
That's a great question, because it's one that I get all the time. I got started in 2009. So if you go back and think about what things were like in 2009, it didn't look good.
Eerily similar. Eerily similar.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was ugly. That was right when everything had hit the fan, and things were, for a lot of people, really scary. Um, that being said, so when I first got started, when I started buying these mortgage notes, they were all non-performing. So that means people were not making payments at all. Where by the time I bought them, all the way through, 10, 12, 2015, people hadn't been making payments for anywhere from a year to 3 or 4 years. So that was weird, a little bit different. It's a different type of approach to note investing, but very profitable, a lot of fun, a lot more work and more risk, but the rewards are definitely greater. So all that to say, whether the economy is doing bad or whether the economy is doing good, interest rates could be high or low. We're buying an already established set of terms. So whatever the terms in that mortgage are, whatever you purchase, whatever, you buy it at a discount so that you can get better return than what that interest rate is on the mortgage. But whatever you lock in at, that is your return. You can very accurately predict going forward what you're looking at. So kind of that adage in real estate, you make money when you buy it, that is absolutely never more true than with note investing. You know exactly what you're doing.
So, it's a very interesting topic, because I think there's a fear that bubbles to the surface for a lot of people. They want to hold on to whatever they have,
Right.
and it's that risk versus reward type of
Yeah.
component that really has them in that headspace where they're like, you know what, I'm not really sure if this is the right time, if I should do this, what if I lose it? But you mentioned something earlier that if one kind of goes belly up, there's a multitude of mortgages involved in this where they kind of pour into the other.
Right.
What's the risk versus reward? What like if someone does this at the right time or makes this a part of their investment strategy, just like my wife and I, we basically have X amount of dollars per month
Mhm.
allocated to our individual 401ks. So we do our best to max them out every single year. It's
Sure.
just an automatic deduction from our financial advisor. We just set it and forget it, and
Yeah.
obviously let the compounded interest take place. So, what's the risk versus reward when it comes to this type of investment?
Yeah, good question. So this one is I term it as your sleep at night money. So this is not going to be the highest return in your portfolio, but it's probably going to be one of the most steady that you've got. For example, my fund, we pay out 8%, which is a good return, but it's not probably what you'd see if you were going to go out and flip a house, for example. However, if you're going to go out and flip a house, um, there are all kinds of question marks in there. The risk is much higher because you don't know exactly how much it's going to sell for, what are the expenses in there, when is it going to sell, all those kinds of things. And is the market going to turn? Excuse me, is the market going to turn halfway through the investment? There's all kinds of question marks on that. So those are great investments, and again, don't get me wrong, I love doing that kind of thing, and it's a lot of fun, and you can make some really great returns. However, it's important, I think, to diversify. Make sure you've got some sleep at night money that you can count on while you're going out and doing all these higher risk, higher reward type of investments.
Is there a min or max as far as what someone can get started with, or is that purely determined on the value of the mortgage?
If you're going to be out buying mortgages on your own, I mean, I've paid as little as $500 for a $2,500 balance. So my actual return on investment with that, and that was phenomenal, but very small amount. You can easily buy, multi-million dollar mortgages, whether that's on a residential property or on a commercial property or something like that. There are absolutely those exist. Um, that's if you're going out and do it on your own. If you're going to be buying into a fund, typically minimum is going to be around 50,000. That's what mine is. Maximum for my fund is 1 million, and different funds are going to have different criteria for that.
So the investment is somewhere but $1 million for someone to get into it. Um,
Could be if somebody's going to go out and do it on their own. I would still recommend, at least 50,000 to buy a single one-off note that's going to be a decent quality that's going to continue to pay.
Now, you don't hear this type of investing all too often. You hear about real estate investing, you hear
Right.
about fixing and flipping, bird dogging, all those different things. So why is this type of real estate investment not talked about all too often?
That's a really good question. I don't know. It's really been around really forever. I was going back and talking to some colleagues, and we were looking back. I mean, it talks about buying and selling debts in the Bible. I mean, it's been around for thousands of years, but for whatever reason, it's not something that is generally talked about. I think my theory is that it's kind of become that's what the banks do. And so we all kind of put it out of our minds to think, well, that's for the big guys. That's what they do. And I'm a little guy, so I can do the real estate, fix and flip. But the big guys, oh, that's not for me. That's for the banks. Not true.
Yeah, because it's just one of those things where if you don't know, you don't know,
Right.
and it's just very intriguing to me because I think when it comes to investing, when it you just again, there are so many people struggling right now, not not
Mhm.
not just with understanding how to invest, but just the liquidity of their household income. It's just, I
Yeah.
think conversations like this are impactful because there's a lot of people that are looking to make investments and they're looking to see where they can diversify their portfolios. And I think it's very important for people not only to listen to this conversation, but just to hear, obviously what you do and how you do it and how you can help people. So,
Mhm.
with that being said, Nathan, if someone listening to this is interested in getting involved in this type of an investment, and the
Mhm.
funds that you have available, how can people learn more about you and how they can go about that, and what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Probably the easiest thing to do would just be to go to my website, earnestinvesting.com, and you can learn a little bit more about note investing and my approach to it. There's also a link on there if you're interested in learning how to do it on your own, if you want to be a little more active as an investor. I also host an annual conference called Diversified Mortgage Expo. There's a link on my website to that website as well, where it's an annual conference. It's no pitching, it's just education and networking. And we all come together and kind of share best practices, hopefully get some deals done while we're there.
Awesome. Love that. So all that information, obviously, about Nathan and his website and the event will be in the show notes, the description, and the email that goes out about this. And if obviously you're watching this on the YouTube channel, you'll find it in the description there. So Nathan, final question before we sign off. What does success truly mean to you?
I've given that a lot of thought, so I'm glad you asked. To me, it's a decision that I came to a few years ago, where I was thinking about where I wanted to take my business and how I wanted to structure it, how I wanted to build it. Um, for me, and in conversation with my wife, we decided for us, there's not a point in growing for the sake of growing. There has to be an end goal. So we have structured our business in order to meet that end goal. And that for us is, it's actually 5 years from now, where we are totally financially independent. Our kids will be moved out of the house, we think, by then. Our youngest will be 19, and I assume he'll be off at college or doing something. And then we are then freed up to do whatever, whether that's travel, whether that's go and do some service in different parts of the world, or whatever the case might be. We're freed up to be able to do that.
Love that. And again, I think it's building a life for the future and for right now. I think that that's really,
Absolutely.
really important. So,
Yeah,
Nathan, just wanted to thank you for coming on to the show today and again, enlightening not just myself, but I know the audience so much about not only this aspect of investing, but your take on it and how it can really benefit people. So, again, appreciate you and thank you again for being here today.
hey, thank you so much.
Absolutely. So, as a reminder, all the information about Nathan and his company and how you can get involved in working directly with him will be in the show notes, the description, and the email that goes out about this podcast episode, but also the YouTube channel description. And please don't forget, support us, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn that notification bell on. And if you are listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please subscribe, leave us a rating and review, and let us know what you loved about this episode in particular and what you would like to hear more of. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Love and I will talk to you next time. Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you could, please support this podcast by hopping over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any place that you're listening to this. Leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved most and what you would like to hear more of. But also, if you would like to learn how to take your business to the next level, whether it's using LinkedIn or working directly with myself and Nancy in our intimate group coaching programs, you can head over to www.thetimetogrow.com or scottaaron.net to learn more. Thank you again for your support, love, and gratitude, and I'll talk to you soon.